welcome to the second episode of Lelouch or Light. Today we'll be looking at how these characters are first introduced to us, and what their personalities are like at first glance. The winner will be decided by which character is the most likable and gets the viewer more invested into the story. So, since it is Death Note's first opening theme that is being played, let's start off with Light. After an incredibly awesome opening, we are introduced to Ryuk, the Shinigami, and Light, the human. Because they are both bored, Ryuk decides to drop his Death Note into the human world, of which Light picks up. The first rule of the Death Note is that any human's name who's written in the book shall die. So to test it out, Light wrote the name of a criminal he saw on television in the notebook, only to indeed learn that the notebook is not a fake. While he's in cram school, Light decides whether or not to test it out again. While he's heading back home, he notices a girl being assaulted, so Light takes the chance and writes down the lead biker's name in the Death Note, and the lead biker dies by getting hit by a truck after chasing after the girl. After this, it cuts to a few days later and we witness the true birth of Kira. When Ryuk finally decides to show up, Light informs him that he was, in fact, expecting some sort of Shinigami. And then Light proceeds to tell Ryuk the process of him turning into Kira and how he came up with his goal, which is to rid the world of all evil by writing down every criminal he can think of in his Death Note, therefore creating a new world that is only peaceful, and he will reign as the god of that new world. Additionally, we also learn that Light has a family that he kind of dismisses, and along with being super intelligent, being one of the top students in all of Japan. If anything, he definitely intrigued me in the first episode, but I'm not sure if I would call him relatable, at least not based off of that first episode. To me, he appeared to be a guy with a god complex who expected people to get on their knees and bow before him. That's just plain arrogance, and arrogance is not an admirable quality in a main character. So while he wasn't really established as relatable or even likable to some degree, he's definitely different. I'll give him that. I've never seen a main character that is quite like Light. Well, with the exception of Lelouch, obviously. In short, Light starts off cynical and then decides that he wants to take over the world and make everything peaceful, using the power of his Death Note. Now, let's move on to our next character, Lelouch. We first meet Lelouch with his friend Suzaku as they witness the Britannian takeover of Japan, renaming it to be Area 11. Lelouch then vows to one day obliterate Britannia. Cut to 7 years later as we witness an older Lelouch playing chess against a Britannian royal. He seems to be living a relatively nice life with some friends who care about him and a girl who more than just cares about him. As Lelouch and his other friend head back to school, they encounter a truck that is being driven by quote-unquote Japanese terrorists, who in themselves are being chased by these mecha called nightmares. This encounter causes the truck to drive off course and crash into a building. A concerned Lelouch, not knowing that they are in fact quote-unquote Japanese terrorists, decides to go help them and then ends up being trapped within the car, along with a mysterious device that is quote-unquote holding chemical weapons. As he is trying to figure out ways to escape, he does not realize that the truck has indeed stopped and that Britannian forces are closing in on it. When the truck is opened, one soldier in particular finds Lelouch and, thinking that he's a terrorist, attacks him. The soldier, as it turns out, was Suzaku. And then somehow the pod opens, but it wasn't chemical weapons at all. In fact, it was a girl who they're really confused about. So the Britannian forces find them and order Suzaku to kill Lelouch. Suzaku refuses to kill the innocent civilian, and then he himself gets shot, much to Lelouch's dismay. Meanwhile, Prince Clovis of Britannia orders everyone in the area to be killed looking for that girl. Lelouch and the girl are hiding until the old cliche of someone calling you at the worst time possible occurs, and they are found out, and Lelouch is ordered to be killed. However, as the shot rings out, the girl jumps in front of him and gets shot in the forehead. It is here where Lelouch pretty much comes to terms that he's about to die and is pretty heartbroken over the fact that he won't ever get to see his sister again. When the girl somehow comes back to life and grants him the power of Gias, which he accepts through all this really cool imagery. Lelouch then uses his newfound power to get him out of this mess by ordering all the men to kill themselves. And that is where the first episode basically ends. Well, that was a very eventful first episode. So, from what we can gather, he lives a relatively nice life. He has friends, he has a sister, and he cares about his friends and his sister, and he also likes to play chess. I'm interested in this guy. Although, to be perfectly honest, it is the story of the first episode that really got me into it when I first watched it. But it didn't mean that I never was interested in Lelouch at all. I actually thought he was really cool, and I wanted to see more of him. He didn't strike me as a light type character who expected people to get down on their knees and worship him. Another thing that I really liked about the introduction of his character is how you kind of saw his normal life before he was given anything. Again, you saw that he had friends, you saw that he went to school, you saw that he had a sister. And that was long before he was given Gias. With Light, you didn't really see him before he got his death note, besides him just complaining about how boring his life is. And I honestly think that makes Lelouch a lot more intriguing. And it also makes him a lot more relatable. Though, to be fair, his actions at the very end of the first episode were morally questionable, but at the same time you can argue that it was just in self-defense. So, now let's move on to the conclusion of this video. So, if I had to choose which character was more likable and more relatable just after the first episode, I'd have to go with Lelouch. He struck me as the more humble character, he struck me as the more relatable character, he struck me as the more human character out of the two. He's a character that got me willingly invested into Code Geass, and I want to see him accomplish his goals later on in the story. I want to see him take over the Britannian Empire, and that's the most important thing when you're talking about characters. To be invested in a character means that you're normally invested in the story. Well, that's it from me. Be sure to like this video and subscribe to my channel if you're interested in seeing more Lelouch or Light. Be sure to join me next time when we discuss their goals on episode 3. Which goals seem more noble, which goals seem more relatable, and overall, which goals are better. See you guys then.